Welcome, WASP Nation. I bid you welcome. The WASP US tour last year was a huge success with many sold out shows, and now WASP is preparing for their European tour that begins on March 17th in Manchester, England. The European tour runs through May 18th, ending in Bulgaria. Get your tickets now for the European tour at waspnation.com. Also available for the European tour are meet and greet VIP tickets. Take it from me, this is a great opportunity to get to meet Blackie in person, get a photo with him, get a couple of autographs, and take part in an intimate Q&A session with Blackie Lawless himself. You can also purchase your meet and greet tickets at waspnation.com. And last, don't forget, you can also purchase official WASP Tour merchandise and exclusive classic design t-shirts at waspnation.com. Welcome. I bid you welcome to the next episode of WASP Wednesday. And I got my good buddy John the Music Nut all the way from the Pennsylvania wastelands up there. That's a little cooler than we are down here in Alabama. So how are we doing today, John?
We're doing great, John. Great to be here. It is actually 47 degrees here today.
Oh, that's not too bad. Okay.
Not far from the Pocono Mountains here in Pennsylvania. I'm in Wyoming County, so
there you go. So it's not
quite as bone chilling. So that's good. So, well, we're going to warm those bones up because today we talk about WASP's second album, The Last Command. October 27th, 1985. And there's the cassette. Flip that bad boy around. I want to show everybody this lovely little, boy, for anybody who had that on vinyl like I did when I first got it, you know, if you look on the back cover, now this is a reprint. So the sticker would have been like really like off in here somewhere. So it was like in a dumb, obnoxious place. And I was like, why? You know, it's much different than the parental advisory stickers that you see. Well, not stickers. Now it's just printed on the actual covers now, if you know, for that. But yeah, those early CDs and tapes, man, or albums, that's what they had on them. So yes, October 27th, 1985, we have this album unleashed on us. We've discovered we have a little bit of a personnel change. So we've gone from Tony Richards on drums, who basically left after the first album comes out. Mm-hmm. And you get, let's see, where is he? Right there. Steve Riley. Mm-hmm. Steve Riley would replace him on drums. You would see him on the Live at the Lyceum video, for anybody who's watched that classic video and listened to that thunderous sound of the way those songs sounded. Yes. I really need to watch a lot of that footage again because it's been quite a long time. I wouldn't mind talking about that someday. But today is the last command. So just a quick little history about this as far as chart placements and things of that nature. So this one we have produced by Spencer Proffer at the Pasha House, engineered by Hans Peter Huber. I believe he was also the Pasha engineer, because I think he also engineered Metal Health and For Quiet Riot. Yes. I mentioned last week how Finland loved their WASP. Well, this album peaked at number 4 on the official Finnish charts. Australia, thank you, Peter Kerr and everybody down there, peaked at 51. Canada, it peaked at 86. Germany peaked at 63. Norway, so I got my buddy Paul that's out there. This one peaked at 14. Sweden peaked at 15. UK peaked at 48. And here in the US on the Billboard 200, it peaked at 49. It had a couple singles. Did not peak here in the States, but again in the UK, Blind in Texas would peak at 77. Wild Child would peak at 71. Blind in Texas would also peak at number 6 on the Finnish charts. So I need to check in about the Finnish charts and how they do all that. But anyway, Certifications. Canada, the album goes gold. Finland also goes gold. Here in the US would also go gold. I eventually believe it does go platinum at some point, but that's the official certification for that, probably with all the reissues and whatever.
Right.
So there is that. So we have that. We have those numbers. So a little bit more countries getting involved on the act here, because the first album didn't have as many countries charting information. So this is encouraging to see. So, John the Music Nut, as always, let's let you talk about what your thoughts on this album.
Okay, thank you so much, John. I received this album in 1985. It was a Christmas gift. And I was already hooked by the first album, as we talked about in our last episode. On this album, you know who the star of the show is by looking at the cover.
Yeah, think?
Yeah, exactly. Now, here, the album's a little more polished. You got Spencer Proffer in here, best known for doing Mental Health for Quiet Riot. He also did Condition Critical. He did Vixen's debut album. He did Kick-Axe. He did Vices and Welcome to the Club, amongst a lot of other artists. He did Little River Band. He did Billy Thorpe. He ran the gamut, but he made his name in the heavy metal circles. Now this album here, it's a little more polished, little more radio friendly, even though these songs didn't hit the radio in the United States. The videos got played a lot on MTV. This was probably the album that was best represented on MTV by W.A.S.P. You saw Wild Child and Blind in Texas pretty frequently throughout late 85, early 86. Now, as far as the songs go, the opener is Wild Child. Wild Child was the second single. I'm going to echo a sentiment from the show that you did, John, with Peter Kerr on Rock Daydream Nation. I think this should have been the first single on the album.
I agree.
Because it has a universal feel.
Yes.
I love someone, but they're with someone else. It's something we all can relate to at least once in our lives. Something it's a universal theme.
Yep.
Whereas the single that was chosen, the wonderful Blind in Texas, Texans are going to love it, right? Blackie Lawless should never, excuse me. Blackie Lawless should never pay for a beer in the state of Texas ever again after that song. What a tribute to the state of Texas. But I think the album would have done a little better if Wild Child was the first single. On this album, I think they let the rhythms carry the songs more than the riffs. It's the rhythm and the vocal line of Blackie that's carrying the song. And he does it on a lot of the songs on here. This is an excellent track. It has become one of their classics. They always play it live. They had a very memorable video when they're playing out in the desert. And excellent video, excellent single. Great track. Great opener. The next track is Ball Crusher. Now, now my brother in Alabama is reading my brain here. But we were young, and we're in our early 50s. When we were young, we loved this song, and now you listen to it, you're like, oh, yeah, cringe. I mean, very graphic. Thing about Blackie Lawless throughout his career, whatever he was singing about, you didn't have to read between the lines. He didn't pull any punches. It was right there for you. And I mean, I'm not saying it's not. It's a good song musically. I'm saying good, not great. lyrically, you're like, no, it hasn't aged well. But I cannot say that about the next track. I love Fistful of Diamonds. To this day, I think that song still holds up strong.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first instances where you see how creative a storyteller and a lyricist that Blackie Lawless was.
Mm-hmm.
His use of metaphors into relation to riches on this song are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the metaphors, they all relate to the title. I want a fistful of diamonds. The millions are calling my name. It's just a very memorable lyric. It's a great riff. It's a catchy song. I think this could have been a single. And I think this could have been a single or a rock radio track, but it was 85. They weren't really playing too much metal on your AOR stations then. I mean, it was more, we had to find bands like W.A.S.P. because you're going to see them on MTV, you're going to see them on tour, or you're going to have to catch some college radio station, which I talked about last week, that had their own metal show, and you would hear these songs.
Or you would read about them at Hit Parade or a circus or something.
Yep, exactly. But Fistful of Diamonds is a wonderful track. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Jack Action, that's a song about murder, wanting to get someone. Again, very graphic. It doesn't offend me as much as Ball Crusher. But, it's a decent song. Widowmaker's wonderful. It's got this very atmospheric beginning. It's very quiet, and then it goes from soft to loud and goes into its main theme. Blackie sings this song very well. Excellent track. I'm the Widowmaker, the Lord of the Rings. Love it.
Yes.
And we get to decide too if you have the cassette or vinyl. And by the way, just to let y'all know out there in television land, okay, a piece of the album here just fell off.
Oops.
This is a relic. White cassette. Okay, just not clear. I do have the next album on clear cassette, I believe. Well, we'll have to look next week now, won't we? I'll tell you what, I played this today. I played the second side. Well, it was obvious my favorite song, and it was Blind in Texas, because the volume's going up and down.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was pretty rough to get through. The rest of the album still played pretty decently though. But anyway, Blind in Texas, again, what a wonderful use of metaphors. What an excellent track. Humorous video. To this day, I can still watch this video and laugh my ass off. All the references, though, are so great. Raising hell in Austin just after sundown. When the Who Scout police decide to come round, they say, what's the matter with you?
Well, what you trying to do? Yep.
I looked at the man, I said, so many references to different cities in Texas. It's a great anthem for the state of Texas. It's a wonderful track. Again, like Wild Child, it's one of these songs they always got to play or the fans are going to be disappointed. Yep. It's a great track. Cries in the Night is the ballad on the album. And Blackie shines like the sun vocally here. His screams near the end here will give you chills. He's very quiet and laid back on the verses, and then it becomes an anthem on the choruses. It's an excellent track. Love it. Title track, wonderful. Title track kicks ass. I mean, great chorus on here. Very joyous. One thing I gotta say, the guitar playing throughout this album, Randy Piper and Chris Holmes do a great job. They play for the song more often than not on here, particularly on songs like The Last Command and Wild Child. I mean, like I like to talk about guitar players that you could sing their solos. Some of these you can actually sing.
Mhm.
You didn't have a lot of that in this genre back then. You really didn't. Um, the title track is excellent. Running Wild in the Streets is a very good track. Here you really hear Spencer Proffer's use of the studio with that organ in the background during the verses, trying to bring in that right sense of drama.
Uh-huh.
So the use of echo, you hear that a lot on this album, but you really hear it on this track. And John, I'm sure you're gonna talk about where this track originated from later on. I know you know that stuff very well,
Mm.
which I admire because I didn't know that until I watched your show with
Oh,
Peter about this specific album on Rock Daydream Nation. Excuse me. Last song is Sex Drive. Um, it's my least favorite song on the album,
yeah.
and I will go. I if I never hear this again, I'm cool with that. I mean, this is like it's like Animal, but it's not even as good a song as Animal. It's just I don't know. It's just very explicit and graphic, and the title says it all. I mean, you want to. I mean, if you have an 11 or 12-year-old kid and he says, "Dad, what's sex?" Well, sex. Just play him this song. I mean, this isn't love. This is sex.
No, it's pretty much right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're going to respond to you later, how they're going to feel about it later in life, but
Yeah.
yes, but um, later on, I'm going to talk about a song that I think should replace this one, and you might be thinking the same way, John. But yes, this is Last Command. I'm going to see if I can get this cassette back in the case. We're
All right.
going back nearly 38 years, folks. This was a good follow-up. As John indicated, this went to number 49. It gave them a good amount of MTV play. It gave them another gold album. And listening to this, as far as ranking it, after giving this another listen, whether it was cassette or Spotify, I don't have the CD
Mhm.
yet. But I did hear some of the bonus tracks. And based on the highs of the best songs on here, like Wild Child, Widowmaker, Fistful of Diamonds, Blind in Texas, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for me, for my take, I mean, again, I think back to when in 1985 when I got
This album, and I was so pumped about it. Because I got the vinyl, and I dropped that needle soon when I got home, and Wild Child picks up, and we're off to the races. You get, one of the things that Blackie does so well is in his songs is that he brings you these characters.
Yes.
You had the Hellion, you had the Tormentor. Um, if you really want to get carried away, you could even say the Love Machine.
Yes.
If you really want to get, really want to, be specific, but then you get the Wild Child, which is probably the best of all of the characters in my opinion. Within the songs, you have that gorgeous intro, those few note intros that leads into the rhythm and the bass and everything. Yes, you have Steve Riley on drums, which you do notice is not as upfront as Tony Richards's was. It doesn't have that crisp ride that you heard. You don't have, there's not a lot of crisp, but it worked. It still works for the song. So anybody who thinks I'm bashing on Steve Riley, I'm really not. But it was a totally different sound, and you do kind of miss that viciousness of what was in that first album because this was so much more polished. But I mean, my goodness, Wild Child. I mean, that is a song that just does no wrong for me. I become Blackie Lawless when I'm sitting in the car listening to this thing. I mean, and God help you if you're a female and you're in the car with me. It's probably not a good thing. I'm just going to leave it at that. Wild Child's probably one of my favorite songs. Ball Crusher. Yes, I loved it when I first heard it. 53. Yeah, not so much. I believe there was even that was even proposed as a single. Because it even
Oh,
I received like I read Blackie talking about they even had a cover for it, and it was like something with baseball, and I think it like somewhat
oh boy.
like a woman's hand was reaching through a crotch with a bloody baseball or something dumb. I don't. It seemed like
Wow.
it was something along that line. If anybody in the comments has heard this story, let us know. Maybe I want to make sure I'm not imagining things with that, but still, you still have a decent riff, some decent lead playing, but yes, pretty much a very explicit song. Um, Definitely one has not aged well. Fistful of Diamonds was another. I agree. Should have been a single. It could have been a single. Don't know if they really ever played this live though. That should have been something I could have looked up. Um, but again, I think the song tells that story that I think so many people today still kind of dream for. They kind of wished for that fistful of diamonds or be able to get to that point. You know, I always used to sing when I would sing this in the car. I was like, fortune, come here to me. It's power that rules the game, seduction of silver. And I would change it and I would say Clouser greed, because of course that's
Nice.
my last name. So I would do that. So I was like, well, but but I mean, so many of the words here again, it's just like you want all the fame and the fortune and everything that comes with it. You know, like intoxicating my mind's wreaking havoc, a famous face, I get what you can't buy. I'm just again, that's some of the dangers of being famous too. I don't know. But again, I thought it was a strong song. It was I don't know if it was always one of my favorite tracks off this, but I still liked it. Jack Action, believe it or not, this song has never been one of my favorites on this album. This one always has been very low on my list. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the simplisticness of the rhythm, and there's really not much of a riff to go with it. But there's some interesting stuff that's going on. You got some Taurus pedals and and stuff like that, kind of hovering in the background, and the whole story. But the song just, I don't know, and the song just never did a lot for me. So it was never something that it was always kind of low on my ranking. So for all the Jack Action fans, sorry. Widowmaker, another of, to me, a classic character. Maybe not as classic as the Wild Child or the Hellion, but you still is a classic character. That atmospheric beginning leading into the verse, and then you just get this great moody solo that, again, like you say, you could literally sing. And
Mhm.
and I heard a story where he kind of does that, where Blackie kind of got the guitar players to do that in any formation of the band. He had a big influence of David Gilmour. And he goes,
Okay.
when you're listening to David Gilmour, you can sing his solos because they're like a song within themselves. And he was
Yes, sir.
and he was kind of trying to he's always tried to kind of project that on his guitar players, and it's true. I mean, whether it's off of this album or whether it's off of the later albums, there's songs that you can really sing those guitar solos, and it's a tribute
Absolutely.
to the guitar player, and especially for Doug Blair, who plays now in the band. I believe Gilmour was a big influence on him to begin with, so that was perfect,
Mhm.
because songs like Golgotha and Heaven's Hung in Black and some of those Miss You and some of those songs. Blind in Texas, again, what a song to watch live, what a song to participate in live. uh just a great 12 bar blues song. Again, like you said, he never has to pay for a drink in Texas ever again, but with this song.
Mhm.
um it's just a super track, again, a funny video about life on the road. Funny that he wrote this thing in Minnesota, which I thought was always kind of funny too. But
Yeah.
I did read that story somewhere.
Mhm.
Cries in the Night. So this, of course, the ballad, same falls in the same ballad slot as Sleeping in the Fire does. Another great track. This song goes back to the Killer Kane days when it was called Mr. Cool, and I think it would also go under a little maybe Mr. Cruel, I think, at one point. But yes, he would do that back with the Killer Kane band. I think he did it in Circus Circus, might have even done it in Sister too. Again, comment people, help me out on this one. And the song doesn't really change much from those early days. I actually, and it's funny how I came across that is I picked up a Randy Rhoads bootleg of like earliest demos, and I listened through it, and I came to this last song on side one. I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds like Cries in the Night from off Last Command. What's this doing on a Randy Rhoads thing? And of course I realized whoever made this bootleg threw this on there for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's how I first heard it. So I was like, oh, okay. Still pretty cool to hear. Anyway, but a great track. Again, Blackie's voice just sends chills up and down your spine. The guitar work is perfect for this song. You get into Last Command, a battle cry, anthem. You just want to get out and just go down to Philly, run up some flagpoles or something to celebrate or cheer or fight, whatever it is you're doing. But again, just a powerful, powerful song. Running Wild in the Streets. It's not credited to him on the album, but it is co-written by Spencer Proffer, and it was originally demoed by Kick-Axe before they became Kick-Axe. And I even saw on Wikipedia, even with Black Sabbath with Ron Keel. So go figure that one out. I would have liked to have heard that one. But anyway, so that's where that comes from. You certainly hear the Pasha sound coming through on this one, complete with Carlos Cavazzo and Chuck Wright on backing vocals. So you get that. But again, another strong song to pick up right after The Last Command. Again, just great guitar work. Everything's great on this. Another song, maybe Running Wild in the Street would have been better to go before Last Command. It would have told a good story, but either way, the songs go well together.
Yes.
And then you get Sex Drive, which was originally, that goes back to the Sister days. So it was just something that they eventually finished out. Again, great when you're 15, 16 years old. It hasn't aged too well over the years. Again, musically, it's not a terrible song. But again, not one of my favorites, but it's still a fun song. Now, for those who have either, if you got the singles like I did, which God bless them, I miss those things terribly. You got a couple of really great B-sides. I believe it was on Blind in Texas. You got Savage. Great track. You could have taken, for my money, you could have taken Jack Action or Sex Drive off and put Savage on there. I love Savage. To me, that is a great, great song. Another good little character to kind of throw in there. I love that menacing song. I think that was a great one. The other B-side was a cover of Mississippi Queen by Mountain. And again, they don't really do anything different with the song, except for the ending, the outro. They do go kind of double time, but for the most part, they pretty much stick with the original Mountain melody and everything. So they don't really do anything really different here. Still, good cover. I still thought it was usually when W.A.S.P did covers, they did them well. This one I definitely like a lot more than Paint It Black. I will say that.
Yes.
And then the CD reissue of it has 5 tracks from the Live at the Lyceum. So you have a live version of On Your Knees, Hellion, Sleeping in the Fire, Animal, and I Want to Be Somebody. Sleeping in the Fire, you get a great interplay there with Randy and Chris. You can definitely tell their styles apart much clearer on that song, on that live version. a lot better than I think you could on even the records. But you still could tell Chris's style because he had that fluttery legato-y, just but yet so tasteful. But Randy's style was much more blues, much more founded in bluesy oriented stuff, which was still really good. So for me, I would also give this an 8 myself, only because some of the tracks just haven't aged well, and some of the production on this hasn't totally aged well. Um, Again, then you do get the cover. You go from you go from band
Right.
Blackie,
Yes.
and of course you get, and then of course when we talk about Inside the Electric Circus, we get Blackie again. So, but then there's stories that I can share about that. But yeah, I would give this at least an 8 as well. Again, Wild Child and Blind in Texas and Cries in the Night and Last Command probably are this, and Widowmaker. Those 5 songs alone probably keep this from being too much lower for me, I think, anymore.
Yes.
So very good album, very, very strong album, strong memories. I mean, I think about the flag here that's on there, and it says "Who Dares Wins."
Yes.
That was, if for those of us who had the vinyl, I think that was put on the vinyl. Let me see. Is it do they feature this? No, they don't. No, it is not in the reissue. But yeah, it does. It says "Who Dares Wins." The album also came with like a little, merch thing that you can order stuff from. Like if you remember from all the Kiss albums, they had all those little things that you could order things from. Well, of course, this had that too. And one of the things for, I think it was, I think back then it was even then it was like $75. You can get a pair of assless chaps.
Nice.
I don't know why I remember that of all the things. But that was one of the things you could order because both Blackie and Chris were wearing them. But anyway, so I don't know if there was like a WASP thing on them or per se, but yeah, they had a bunch of things that they sold on that, and I think you probably could have even joined a fan club, which I wish I could have done that. But anyway, so that's the Last Command. You got any parting thoughts before we go off and we think about the Electric Circus?
I do, and I opened this up just to see if there was the ads here to buy merch, but there is.
I saw the Who Dares Wins thing.
Oh yeah, that's right here. Yeah, that's. Let's see how to.
Yeah.
There.
Yep. Yeah, the CD doesn't have that, so.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, we have the full lyrics here, which I could have read very easily back then, not now. So, but yeah, you echoed something I was going to bring up. End the album with Savage and Take Off Sex Drive. It's an 8.5, maybe even a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and what I'm saying, maybe a 9, I don't know if it would still be as impressive as the debut, but it'd be really close. I think you're talking about Wild Child, I Ride is the first two words in that vocal. And that song is about riding.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would have been a great way to end the album. It would bookend so perfectly.
It would. And I was wondering, I couldn't remember if the lyrics to Savage was in there, and I could have read some of the lyrics, but it's not in there. So sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I read some of the lyrics before, and I was like, yeah, this would have been a better. I mean, because it's a strong track, and it would have been a perfect way to end the album. I would have ended, if hindsight being 2020, I would have, if I was Spencer Proffer, I would have ended the album with Savage.
Sure.
No, you were mentioning before, John. Did they play these songs on tour? Well, I looked into that.
Okay.
We've said before, we didn't see them until last year on their 40th anniversary tour. But on the tour, and here's the thing and I'm wondering if this actually may have hurt the sales a little bit. they didn't get on a big tour for very long with this album. First off, they didn't go touring until 86. Okay, 2 months after the album sale. That was kind of common, but you're going out in January of 86. And you're opening for Kiss. And Kiss were riding the Asylum album, which went platinum. It's not one of my favorite albums, but you got Tears Are Falling was a pretty big single for them. And Who Wants to Be Lonely All Night got some video play as well. I mean, it was a solid album, but and Kiss were still, it was more of a pop phase at that point, more hair metal, so to speak. It wasn't as heavy as Animalize and Lick It Up and Creatures before that, but they weren't on that tour for very long. And then later on, they hooked up with Black Sabbath and Anthrax. Now, Anthrax were pushing Spreading the Disease. I don't even know if they were on a, it may have been their first album on a major, or it was their last album on, maybe it was Megaforce. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Put in the comments if you guys know, you guys and gals know out there. But so Anthrax is an up and comer. You got W.A.S.P, who's on the verge of breaking. And then the headliners, Black Sabbath, with Tony Iommi being the only original member. And it was a good album. Yeah, Glenn Hughes could sing the phone book in my eyes. And he's saying, well, on there, you had Eric Singer before he went to Alice Cooper and Badlands and Kiss. There's a talent right there. And you had Dave DeB Spitz on bass. But the album failed commercially. And then the tour had issues because Glenn Hughes wasn't in good health. And then he got in a fight and I think he got punched in the throat and he couldn't sing for the rest of the tour. So to bring in Ray Gillen, who later would be in Badlands. So they were like struggling at the box office. People weren't buying the albums because you're on singer number 4, wonderfully talented singer who was also going through a lot of personal issues. I wonder if they got onto a bigger tour, would the album have done better?
Yeah.
Like would have, instead of just stalling out at gold, maybe it would have went platinum. I mean, I know MTV was very influential at that time too, but a lot of people are still going to see the live concerts, and they were still playing bigger places like the Spectrum in Philly and Brendan Burr Arena in New Jersey. So I wonder if that hurt the album a little bit.
Could have, because if my memory serves me correctly, that tour was supposed to be at Stabler Arena in Bethlehem.
Yes.
And I think that the rug got pulled out pretty quick on that one because of the low ticket sales. So that show didn't even happen at Stabler. So
okay, there you go.
So as far as I know, it got canceled pretty quick, but which is a shame because but yeah, I mean, there's I would have loved to have seen that tour. I personally loved Seven Star. I thought that was an awesome album. Probably the last real Black Sabbath album I really took the time to listen to. Okay. Or Black Sabbath, as it's really not, because it's just Tony. But yeah, I mean, Glenn Hughes was just all over that album. It was amazing to listen to. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, because unfortunately their managerial mates were off recording another album, so they weren't even touring, because that could have been a good package. And I know Iron Maiden and W.A.S.P did do some touring together, but with them off recording Somewhere in Time, well, right, that took them off the plate for a while, until they came back with that. And then I think that's when W.A.S.P would eventually come out with Inside the Electric Circus, but we're going to save that for the next episode. So, okay. I mean, I don't have any other, that's pretty much all I got. So unless you guys, one last thing, I think we got this. So, we got John the Music Nut Sorry, I feel like I was about to cut you off.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say they were primarily playing 5 songs off of The Last Command for the tour, and the songs they were playing were Wild Child, Blind in Texas, Fistful of Diamonds, Widowmaker, and Sex Drive.
Yeah, I feel like I have heard some bootleg stuff of Sex Drive, and it sounds terrible. No
Nah,
offense, guys, but it didn't
right.
sound it didn't sound good live. So yeah,
And then there were some other dates they did with Kiss, where Kiss gave them a 10-song set list. So just smart of them because Wasp were getting getting a lot of airplay, getting a lot of momentum. Excuse me. And they did those songs that I mentioned, and they also did the title track and Cries of the Night as well.
nice. Yeah, I need to go bootleg hunting, I think.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. Thank you for that. And thank you for that information. That's good to know.
Welcome.
So, all right. Well, there you guys have it. So, what did you guys think of The Last Command? What do you still think of The Last Command? Has it changed in your opinion since, if you're like us and we're alive in 1985? Or are you like some of the newbies who weren't quite born yet, but you've gotten into the band since then? What's your thoughts? So, like, share, subscribe. You know all the YouTube lingo. I am Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, John Clauser, whatever you want to call me. My good friend John the Music Nut. This has been a blast talking to Wasp with y'all. Leave a comment. Tell me what y'all think. We will see you, and we'll be talking some inside the Electric Circus. Peace out.
Thank you. Good night.
Whoops. Hang on.